All right. This is a reintroduction of sorts. And I started this podcast in 2019 in the before time. And I had 4 episodes. And then the world changed. And I have changed the name from Dollar Theater to Dollar Store Cinema. The reason why I've done that is, one, I think it's a better name. But the main reason I did it was because in that time that I was away, when the pandemic was happening, there was another podcast that started with the same name, different spelling, and has over 70 episodes. And so I can't compete with that. So I thought that a rebrand was needed. Anyways, enough with the introduction. I am Thomas, and this week I will be reviewing Robert Townsend's Playin for Love. Now, this whole series is basically me looking at movies that have stars in it from various places. Some are Emmy Award winners, some are Oscar Award winners, some are nominees, some have had lead TV shows, movies, blockbusters, things of that nature. But the film that I'll be reviewing is way less known for various reasons. And so this movie by Robert Townsend is called Playin for Love, and it is a rom-com. Now, I know Robert Townsend because he directed and co-wrote one of my favorite movies of all time, The 5 Heartbeats, which is a fictional tale about a black group growing up in the 60s, loosely based on the story of the Dells and David Ruffin from The Temptations. And before that, his first film was Hollywood Shuffle, and he maxed out all these credit cards to make it, and it was a do-it-yourself movie, and it's a cult classic. And he also worked with Keenen Ivory Wayans on both of those projects. He directed Raw by Eddie Murphy, and he was actually the lead in a 90s television show called Parenthood, and it was sort of like an updated version of the Cosbys. It was very good. But anyways, this movie takes place in 2016, and he plays Coach Banks, who is known as the General, and he is used to getting his way. He has led the Miami Jackson Generals to 6 straight state championships, and he's looking for his 7th. And his motivation throughout the movie is to make it to the big leagues. Him and his assistant coach are trying to get to the NCAA, and they feel like they've had a perfect path for it because the judge, McCoy, has recently transferred over from their main rival. And so it's all but tied up. And the only thing that's preventing it is some type of booster for the University of Iowa tells Coach Banks, like, yo, I know some people that if you get him to sign a letter of intent to the university, that you'll all be but guaranteed a head coaching position and have a place for your mans as assistant coach. And so Coach Banks, at the start of this movie, does things his way. He even bends the rules a little to get that way. He has a sturdy foundation as far as his plays are concerned. He knows how to be successful, and so he is, right? Then he meets Talisa McCoy, who is Justice's mother, and she is not having it. The first day she meets him, shows up with a playbook of her own, and she's like, yo, these are some plays. He throws them away. He's like, who are you? Go away. Let the coach be a coach and you just be a student. And she's like, oh, you threw away my plays, huh? My boy's not playing. And she literally tells him, like, yo, you can't suit up. And coach is like, yo, get in the game. He's like, no, my mom said I can't. And so they are butting heads for a while. And then what actually blossoms as sort of like an enemies to lovers trope. And they end up really connecting over basketball. Her dad was a playground ball legend that he actually watched growing up, and that's why she knows about the game. And the thing about this movie is they actually have great chemistry, and yeah, the writing is okay, and the banter is fun. There's a larger cast where she is a mother of 4, and she has a teenage daughter. We don't really get to know anything about her. She has, obviously, Justice, who's a senior in high school, and she has 2 small kids. The little one reminds me of China McClain from Daddy's Little Girls and House of Pain. She has that, like, type of sassy attitude, which leads to comedic moments. And then there's Cootie Jr., who's taking after his father's footsteps, cursing and toting a toy gun like it's real and talking about busting caps and all this stuff. And Coach Banks at first is trying to just get the letter of recommendation and by any means possible, right? But then it slowly turns into like an actual relationship where he values her opinions. He even cuts off the girl he was messing with before named Shannon. And then it takes a turn. When he basically cuts it off with Shannon, she's essentially a whistleblower. And it's like, yo, he proposed to me, which is cap. She shows this fake ring that was set up from an earlier joke. And she's like, yeah, his fiance, I was out of town, now I'm back. He told me all about you, but I felt bad for you, so I'm telling you the truth. And then, like, the assistant coach, turns out he's the one who also was a whistleblower, basically being like, yo, there was this whole plan with Iowa and trying to convince him to sign this letter of intent. So Coach Banks, literally after winning his 7th straight state championship, has to resign. And there's this whole big scene at the end where he like confesses his real love and real feelings for Talisa, and they like he proposes and they get married. So it's a sports movie, but it's also a rom-com. But where Jerry Maguire does a great job of balancing the two, and you actually get to see like the action of Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character playing the game, and you see the highs and lows and all that, but you also see the behind the scenes and the inner workings of what goes on. This movie, the basketball choreography is very clanky. Like, you can't really follow what's going on, and the editing is just really jarring and choppy, which is disappointing because I know that Robert Townsend can direct, but like this movie felt cheap, and like they had like side wipes. It was almost like a student film type thing, and yeah, it really took me out of the movie. It was disappointing because like the kids can play, like you see they have talent and they're making the shots and dunks. It's not like movie magic, not really. But you don't feel like you're in the game. You feel like you're like a third person watcher, and not even like seeing the whole court, but more like just snippets. There's an overhand cam with certain shots where you see people dunking or shooting a shot. But then there are just these stagnant tripod shots, essentially. And again, outside of like them flashing the scores on the screen, and even that was awkward. Like them winning the 7th straight championship, like shenanigans ensue, and they can't play their star player. But like this whole big moment that's supposed to be like the crux of the film, it isn't as impactful because you are so disconnected from the action, and it's unfortunate. And also the thing that I didn't like is they have teammates, and there's a character very early on where he's like, yo, I'm the star, Justice, you're gonna have to follow my lead. And there was nothing else mentioned about that. And like, there's a scene where we find out, spoiler alert, that Justice is having a baby on the way. Like, his girl is pregnant. And they have a surprise baby shower for him. And one of the teammates gives this beautiful speech, but it feels hollow because, like, you know nothing about this character. I don't even know that nigga name. Like, you don't see them spend time together outside of him being a part of a group, being like, hey, we're studying, Mom. And that's it. Like, it's unfortunate because I've seen movies do this better. Like, recently, Peacock Shooting Stars, about LeBron James's high school basketball team. That was great. Basketball choreography in the HBO's Showtime series. That was phenomenal. Like, there's so many. Oh, Bel-Air. Peacock's Bel-Air. They do great basketball choreography, and the way it's shot is phenomenal, where you feel like you're in the action. But this, it felt very, 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 I don't want to say sanitized, but like, it felt so far away, which is unfortunate. And so that left a lot of things to be desired. And the last thing I'll say is there are characters like Alizé, who is Talisa's friend, who's played by the legend Jenifer Lewis. And she has this book series talking about like why men are like dogs, and she uses dog analogies when it comes to men. But outside of like 2 scenes, you don't really hear about that. And like, there's a club scene where she sets Talisa out on a blind date, and the cast member from 5 Heartbeats, one of Duck's like country cousins, who just had a bit part, like does like a similar bit in this movie, and it does not connect. It happens way too long, and it's bad. And so like, there are characters, like even on this cover, they show Lulu from Paid in Full. He's on this cover, and he has 2 scenes. Like, I don't even know that nigga name. Like, I don't know who he was to him. And so when he's like, I'm disappointed that you're leaving, like, that doesn't hit because we don't know who this is. All in all, I'll say it was an alright movie, but I wouldn't pay for it. Like, the only reason why I bought it is because I love Robert Townsend and it cost $1. But, like, I wouldn't pay a matinee price. I'd watch it on, like, streaming. Like, if it was on Tubi or Crackle, that would be, like, the type of the movie experience that I'd be like, okay, this was fine. I'm out.